Hey everybody, welcome back to the basement. Today is actually February 23rd, 2020. I think it's the 23rd. Anyways, I'm going to do a little bit of a flea market finds episode. I'm trying to think now. We've got a couple of just odd picks. I've got a micrometer I picked up off of Facebook from one town over. That was interesting because I really wanted this micrometer from the photos and the price. And it took forever to get this guy to respond. And when I finally get over there and looked at the thing, well, I'll show you. I ended up buying it anyways. And then I got one tool store pick from last week we'll throw in. And then I've got this lot of items that I picked from a storage unit that a guy was cleaning out. And then when I went out there and met him, it turned out he's a picker himself. And he does cleanouts, and he had a toolbox and some other stuff there. The toolbox was I forgot what it was. It was nothing special, but I went through all the drawers in the toolbox and picked out a few things, and then found a few things in some other boxes. Put together a pile and put together an offer that he accepted, and got some a few little nice things in there. So let's get right to it. So let's talk about this micrometer that came up on the Facebook Marketplace. I think it came up for 30 bucks. The guy didn't have any of the machinist tools listed. Matter of fact, he really didn't have much listed at all. But he had this Brown & Sharp micrometer listed. And I looked at the pictures closely, and I could see that it was one of these indicating micrometers of the style that has the tumbler. Okay. And I figured, judging from the case, couldn't be too old. All right, so it's this style here. It's got the readout, so direct reading, I guess, for lack of a better term. And it's a tenths micrometer, so it has the .0001 capability. So I was interested in this because those of you who watch my channel regularly may recall that not too long ago I scored this one. It's an older one, obviously, but it's the same type of design. These are apparently made by Tessa, because they're Brown & Sharp, but they say Swiss made. And you can actually find these branded as strictly as Tessa. So those of you who watch my channel regularly know that I scored this only to find out that it doesn't work correctly, because this is not supposed to be able to turn like this freely. And the reason why this turns freely is because this super tiny screw that's in this bag fell out, and that screw actually threads into a little tiny piece of metal that rides in this slot behind here. So to fix this micrometer, I need to get that little tiny piece of metal, a little key with a threaded hole in it that screw would thread into. I need to get a replacement one of those. I haven't tried contacting Tessa yet. I think it's called Hexagon Metrology or something like that. I think is the name of the company that owns Brown & Sharp now, and Tessa and all these other companies. So I'm going to have to try and contact them to see if I can get that part. So I'm like, oh, here's a newer version of that, right? That'd be cool. I start thinking to myself, hey, maybe I'd like to have a couple of different sizes of this style. So I finally get out there and am able to meet this guy. And I take the micrometer out and I take a look at it, and look, what do I see right off the bat? Same problem. And what do I notice? Screws missing. And I had to laugh when I first saw it, because I realized this has got the same ailment as the other one, which is that the screw fell out of this one, which allowed that piece to go missing. There it is. That's the slot right there that it goes in. Okay. So, same boat. Matter of fact, this one's actually in worse boat than that one, because this one, not only is it missing that piece, it's also missing the screw. So this needs two pieces to be repaired. So I explained to him, he had no idea what the value was on this. And I explained to him that based on the fact that unfortunately it was, missing these key pieces, that it's really just a parts micrometer. And I was able to get him to take $10 for this micrometer. So that's where we stand with that. I got a feeling I'm going to probably be unpleasantly surprised by or shell-shocked when I find out how much that is probably going to cost me to get that that darn those two little parts for this thing. And it's like, okay, why isn't it working? It's because it doesn't. It has to be shortened before it even fits in the pouch. There we go. All right. So that's my $10 micrometer story. Too bad. All right, next up is a used tool store buy. I was able to score this last week at the used tool store for $55. And what we have here is it's a B120A-6 Starrett, which is a Starrett dial caliper, 6-inch. And what's really nice about this caliper is the fact that it still has the original MSC sticker on it that shows that this was March 7th of 2019. So these calipers aren't even a year old yet. And the MSC catalog, is not the cheapest place to buy Starrett. So I went online. You can find this exact caliper still available on their website. I think the last price I saw was the discount price of like $238 and change. So sad to think that somebody less than a year ago paid, that kind of money for this thing, and it looks brand new, not engraved or anything, really clean. That'll wash off, obviously. Great deal on these, but the fact that he's selling it to me for $55 tells me, boy, did he get a hell of a deal on these things. Those of you who watch my channel know that I favor my digital Mitutoyos, my Mitutoyo Absolute Coolant Proof ones. I was just using them just a second ago, so that's why it's on. But they do go to sleep. They do have good battery life, not like some of the cheaper calipers out there that just kill the batteries in standby mode. So these are coolant proof, IP67 rated. I don't need coolant proof, but that's what I got. I picked these up at the local pawn shop of all places, where I can almost never buy anything reasonably. But I was able to convince him to sell these to me at, I forgot what I paid for them, but it was a fair price, I thought. So those are my go-tos, but I like the idea of having a dial caliper, because dial calipers, you never have to worry about the batteries. So on the rare occasion where I might have the battery die on that and I don't have a standby battery, or if I just happen to mislay those, which sometimes happen, and I want to grab a caliper quick. Of course, grabbing it quick would be easier to grab it quick if it wasn't in the box and in the case. So I got these 120s. This is my second or third pair of these I've gone through. I keep just trading up and, selling one and keeping the better. So this is the latest variation of the 120 before I bought that one, this newer one. So this is the white face. So I got to decide, do I want to keep this older one? This was calibrated back in 1990. Who knows how old it is. I want to keep this older one with the nicer case. The old style case I think is better than that plastic thing. And got the box for it. And then the interesting thing is that this is a 120ZZ. This is actually the part number for the box, the case alone, without the calipers. So somebody probably bought, calipers without a case, which you can order them direct without the case, and then later you could order the case separately. So that's kind of an interesting, I would have thought that automatically all of those precision instruments from Starrett would just come with cases, but no, it's not. That is not the case, pardon the pun. How cheesy. So I'm going to have to decide which one of these I want to keep, which one I want to sell. And then the other thing that could, be a factor is I've got two Brown and Sharp 6-inch dial calipers out to MR tool repair as we speak, and I just got the estimates back on those, and I know one I'm definitely going to have repaired. The other one I haven't decided yet if I want to plunk the money into it because it needs a lot. But those are Brown and Sharps. Those are also nice. So maybe the one that needs, I think, $69 of repairs and parts. Maybe that one. I have it fixed and I just keep it for myself because I'm probably never going to make any money on it. I don't know. We'll see. I hate the idea of just not having them repaired because then they're just junk. What are they good for? Although I'll have to talk to him about that because who knows? Maybe if he allows me a few bucks off of my repair costs on my other stuff for taking that as parts or whatever, maybe I'll do that. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. So, anyways, that's the one other item I've got before we get into this pick from the storage unit. So the storage unit pick. This guy was a picker that had no idea about. Well, actually, he claimed that he did have a career in machining at one point. So he seemed to know the names of some of these items, but he didn't seem to care too much about what brand names or anything like that were on them. And that worked out in my favor. I ended up initially going through finding a lot of junk that didn't interest me, and then I kind of started to find a few pieces here and there. So then I backtracked, and then I realized, this is going to be one of those deals. Make a pile, make an offer, go from there. This was actually a couple of weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I honestly can't remember exactly what I paid for this stuff. So unfortunately, you guys are just going to have to let your imagination run wild. I know I probably paid something like 90 to 120 for the whole lot. Because again, it wasn't piece by piece, it was the whole lot. So let's just dive right in. I actually haven't looked at this stuff since the day I picked it, so kind of forgot myself what the heck was in here. Well, let's start with this cream puff. No sense in just leaving it there. But these are small hole gauges. I believe they're Craftsman. Yeah, this is a Craftsman small hole gauge set. Unfortunately, it's missing one of the 4 that go in this kit. And to make matters worse, they're rustified. Oh, that's almost a swear. Anyways, they're rustified. But here's the thing. I'll show you on the larger one because it's easier to see. The funny thing is, the business end of it is actually perfect. So, to sum up, yeah, they look like crap, but they're actually still usable. This box says that it's a T230 XRL, which means that it should be a thousandths, a tenths micrometer, and it should have a ratchet handle with a lock, and it looks like it is the correct one. Oh, and carbide faces. So this is actually a decent little Starrett 0 to 1 micrometer. The only thing wrong with this micrometer I think I noticed was the lock. Doesn't... Seems okay. Looks like we even got the micrometer wrench in there. Okay. So, be a good cheap micrometer for somebody, relatively speaking. It's another one of these little pocket chums, these little mini calipers. Pocket Chum is the brand name I typically see on these. Interestingly enough, though, this is a Tomiko tubular micrometer company. Sometimes this little wheel is seized up and then somebody tries to turn it and it breaks and snaps off. This one jiggles a little bit, so I think there might be some hope in actually getting this one to... Oh, look at that. It's not frozen. That's nice. Well, things are looking up for the life of this little thing. Yep, locks. Not horrible. Just out of curiosity, what's that calibration date? It appears to have been calibrated in 1968 and was due for calibration in 1969. So this was calibrated 2 years after I was born. Definitely looks like a Brown and Sharp type of case. This is a Craftsman. Huh. Got a little bit of rust on the bottom there. Craftsman, made in the USA. Would have thought this is a locking ring, but apparently not. So we get a Craftsman, an early Craftsman depth micrometer, if that's what this case even was for. You know, maybe not. These rods, let's see. Tell you what, though, I think these might be the correct rods for this thing. So we got a 1 to 3 inch is what we've got left here. Who knows if that's what it started life as, but... And if this rod is not seized in there, then we're looking good. Yeah, it's not. Okay. Yeah, that looks like the correct type. So, how about that? Nice little 1 to 3 Craftsman depth micrometer, and that is something else. I don't know what the hell that is. Got a little wedge shape to it. It's an old vernier. It's a Starrett. LS Starrett, Athol, Massachusetts. Not even going to bother cleaning it up. I'm going to offer it to somebody cheap, just the way it is. An interesting little scale, L-shaped scale. This is a Lufkin number 139 4-inch. So 4 inches in both directions. Lufkin 139. Ah, yes. Speaking of rustification. Inside micrometer. An 823A Starrett that has seen better days. Got a lot of surface rust on it. That's going to need to be cleaned up. However, this could still actually be a serviceable item if somebody wants to put the time into cleaning it up. Although it does feel like, unfortunately, I think this is seized. Oh, nope, it's turning. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Just take it apart, clean it, a little light oil. Some people might think this is all junk. Not me. This is a Starrett pin vise, letter size D. Forgot what style this is. That's got the open back to it, but unfortunately this is the only one I think I found in the whole mess of stuff I looked through. This is a Starrett 269A taper gauge, and that's what's in there. And it's actually this is actually in very good condition. I'm gonna have to look and see which ones I have. If I don't have one of these, I will keep it for myself. And this is a 269A taper gauge box, but the funny thing is, it's got another one in it. This is a center head for a blade. Could be Starrett. Could be anything, but I think this one's actually marked. This one is clearly marked Starrett-hardened. Here is a interesting little depth gauge. I haven't seen one this style. Well, I can tell you why I've never seen one before, because this is probably rare. This is a Mauser. Could that be like literally the Mauser, like German manufacturer of guns? Bolt action Mauser? The Mauser action? This is kind of neat. It's got beveled edges on the blade. The blade's thicker. It's not a flimsy little thing. I don't know exactly how you're supposed to lock this. There's no place for a thumb wheel or anything to lock this in place. And it's got a super sharp Well, I take that back. That's actually not super sharp, but there's a little tiny stylus on the end there. Check that out. Okay. A little tiny set screw right there, so you can remove it and change it out, I guess. It doesn't come to a point. It's a blunt end. It's a squared off end. But I've never seen one like this before. I like that. That's kind of neat. We got a couple of, let's see, feeler gauges. That's feeler gauges. Oh, screw pitch gauges. All right. Starrett 156 metric. Oh, okay, that's interesting. That's a metric Starrett set. I think I already have that one. I bet you I'll be able to sell that, no problem. And a Starrett number 66 feeler gauge set. And they're actually, you know, they're in pretty rough shape. Probably just end up keeping those. I keep a lot of these because they're not really that super valuable, you know. They always go missing. There's a little 3-inch scale. It's a little itty bitty 3-inch Starrett scale. Athol, Massachusetts there. It's a little harder to see over here. It says Ellis Starrett. It's, you know, honestly, some of this stuff, I only looked at it quickly and just kind of nonchalantly threw it into the pile. So I didn't want to fixate too much on who made some of the stuff because I realized I was getting it cheap anyways. And I realized, well, I can always look later, and if it is what I hope it is, then great. If it's not, no big deal. You know, case in point, this next series of items right here, we've got a pair of V-blocks, and by some miracle, they appear to still be with their original hold down clamps. And I can clearly see a number on the end of this one. So it's interesting right here. It says quarter 20, so that must be the threads of that hole. And then it looks like it says USS. And then it's 151. Oh, here we go. These are number 905. 905 of the Lufkin Rule Company. So these were like, you know, oh boy, would it be nice if they was Starrett or Brown and Sharp or Taft Pierce, but they're Lufkin, so not. But they're a matched pair with the original little clamps. I still think that's a sweet little set. Haven't decided yet what I'm going to do with those. Bench block. Recognized it as a bench block right off the bat. But of course, again, it was like, okay, is this one of the many, many bench blocks that I've come across that have been, you know, shop made by some kid in a Voc-Tech school? Or are we talking something nice like a Brown and Sharp or a Starrett bench block, which, if you've seen the prices on used Starrett bench blocks, you know what I'm talking about. They actually are, you know, people look at this and wonder, why the hell are these so expensive? It's like, well, they're not, unless it's a Starrett. I think Brown and Sharp had a version of this too. Yeah, I don't think my luck's that good. You know, it's interesting. It's blued on the inside. Somebody took the time to blue the inside of that. Which, you know, that makes me think, oh, that's not a homemade, shop-made deal. That's a commercially made one. But if it's a commercially made one, I can find absolutely no markings on it whatsoever to indicate who made it. So that's unfortunate. The knurling is really nicely done too. So there's an opportunity for me, if, you know, if I go and if I have an original Starrett, maybe I'll keep this one for myself and sell the Starrett that has more value. I don't even remember who makes the one I have.